Did the media misrepresent what happened in Arizona?
I believe it did, given that it used a very historically loaded term, interposition. That would have implied that the state of Arizona actually actively tried to stop or intercept a federal action, when in fact it was really trying to position itself as a partner with federal authorities, but actually exceeded its right as a state in matters of immigration that the U.S. Supreme Court then determined were inconsistent with the powers of the federal government. So rather than as an active agent trying to deny the capacity of government to act, Arizona actually wanted government to act even more than it had with regard to immigration and the protection of Arizona's border. And in that state of frustration, they went beyond what they constitutionally were allowed to do.
Now, they wanted a crackdown on the people who were coming across the border without documentation.
Correct.
And they've still got that problem.
Right.
Why did the media immediately seek to make this, use this metaphor of interposition? What do you think was behind that?
I think where it came from was the U.S. Justice Department used the word one time in a very lengthy legal brief. And the New York Times, as it was going through that legal brief, found the word, mentioned only one time, and knew its historic ramifications in terms of states trying to prevent Brown v. Board of Education from being implemented, and said, wow, we may have something here of a reoccurrence of a race-based action on the part of a state that runs counter to what the federal government wants. And so I think it was just that provision that the Justice Department raised that the Times then focused in on, and I think made too much of relative to what the actual issues were.
It seems to me, just as a layperson coming to this issue, that what was going on was the media understood this problem in Arizona to have a racial dimension in some way. They knew the history of the 1950s when George Wallace was standing in the schoolhouse door. That's race-based, and they made this kind of a linkage. Is that your understanding as well?
In fact, that's exactly what they did. Just as you described, the Times article raised the civil rights issues of the 1950s and 1960s, where we did have various southern states actively intercepting federal orders to desegregate. And in some ways, if we were of Mexican descent or ancestry in Arizona, it may feel this way, actually, as human beings in terms of Arizona's immigration activity or activity to try and stop illegal immigration. So in a sense, I think the Times article raised an important issue of race-based legislation, but it wasn't an act of interposition. It was really an attempt of the state of Arizona to join with the federal government in solving an issue, but they went too far, and they exceeded their authority in relationship to federal authority.
Thank you.
You're welcome.